Hello and welcome back to Blackwatch Intel. My name is Crashy, and today I want to talk about the possibility of having a role queue system in the game. Now, since probably about halfway through the life cycle of the game, we started getting this idea about being able to queue up for your role, and rightfully so. It's something that is featured in various games, especially Blizzard's own title, World of Warcraft, but it doesn't quite translate to Overwatch. And I want to kind of share my idea and kind of bounce an idea that I had while talking with a buddy today about how we could make this work and what exactly it would do. So first, I'd like to preface this by saying it's not going to be perfect. There's never going to be a perfect system that makes all of your games go smoothly, and there are still room for failure and room for flaws in the system that I'm going to propose, but I think it's much better than what's going on the competitive ladder currently. So I want to set up a scenario. Have you ever been in a game? Maybe let's say it's after the first round of Oasis and your team didn't do very well, people are arguing, and all of a sudden you press tab and you're the only healer and you have 5 DPS. This is a classic case of too much freedom in the game, in my opinion. And it's a silly scenario that could totally be avoided, in my opinion, but that game is most likely going to be a total loss for total lack of trying. And I feel like implementing some form of role system can really eradicate at least some of those issues, some of the, giving up on the game and just automatically throwing the game due to composition, based on the fact that that just shouldn't happen. That should not be happening on our competitive ladder, and it's very hard to put blame anywhere because, well, if you have 5 DPS on your team, who do you blame for that? So overall, I want to discuss this new system idea that I have. I want to introduce not 3 roles for you to queue up for, but 4. And those roles are going to be damage, DPS, tank, support, and flex. Now, the reason that my idea for a role queue system is a little bit different is because flex is going to be the most important part of this system. Now, I know Blizzard has said in the past that they don't want to lock anyone off from swapping heroes, and I understand that, and hero swapping is definitely a massive important part of the game. But having said that, and with that said, there should be, in my opinion, 3 specific types of characters in every team composition, no matter what. You always need 1 DPS or damage player, you always need 1 main tank, and you always need 1 dedicated healer. And I don't care who those heroes are, I don't care who's playing them, but in my role queue system, I'm going to show you the composition here in a minute. I think that we need to have 3 people, half the team, locked into that role. And I'm going to say it, I know they won't be able to swap to different roles, I know they won't be able to swap to different heroes in my system, but I think that's genuinely what the game needs. If you queue for DPS, you are limited to queuing in the offense tree and the defense tree. That's how I see it for now. That's what I think is best, because you will always have one of those heroes on your team, or you should always have. If you queue for tank, same goes. If you queue for support, same goes. So what are the other 3 spots for? I think we should have a role queue system, and the perfect composition, as you can see on the screen here, is 3 flex players, a tank, a healer, and a DPS player. Now, this is going to be where my role queue system has definitely differed from some of the other, proposals out there, and why I think my system would work the best. I want to lock the hero pool off for the 3 main dedicated players, and the people that are going to be queuing those roles are the people that truly just want to play that role, and you can't blame them, and it's not their fault when, 3 Mercy mains get on the same team. This is going to eradicate some of the weird compositional issues that we have in the game currently live right now in Overwatch. So if we have 3 flex players, what does that mean? What does it mean for them in terms of hero pool? Well, let's talk about that. The 3 flex players will have the ability to play the entire roster. This means I want to have 3 people that can do it all. And I want to talk about this. One of them should be going support, possibly, unless you want to run a 1 support composition. One of them should be going tank, possibly if you want to run a 2 tank composition. One of them should be going DPS, possibly, if you want to run a 2 DPS composition. Now, this leaves room for 3 tanks, 1 DPS, 2 healers. This leaves room for 2 tanks, 3 DPS, 1 healer. It leaves room for 1 tank, 3 DPS, 2 healers. It leaves all sorts of room for the team to decide, but still keeping that core value, that core team of 3 characters and 3 picks, 3 heroes on the team. That's going to be tank, heals, and damage. I think this system still has room for error. I think people could still troll in the system, of course, because anybody can one-trick whatever they want. But I think this system would give us a very solid foundation to make games a little bit more serious by locking us into our roles, giving the flex players the ability to communicate with the team and build the team that you want to have, and have the core of the team, which in my opinion is tank, healer, and damage. So I have some mock-ups that you've probably seen throughout the video. I want to talk about how you would queue for this. Essentially, you would have those 4 options, you would see it in the menu, and you would queue for it. And my idea is that once you pick that role, I mean, it's Overwatch. You are playing a role. Most people tend to stick to a specific role anyways. Once you pick that role, the game loads up on the loading screen. You are going to see what role the game has assigned you. Now, in my mock-up of the queuing, like the menu section, you may see that it seems like it's only 1 button. I would, this is just a bad mock-up on my end. I just, threw it together in Photoshop. But I would actually like you to be able to queue up for as many of those as possible. And then when you load into the game actually assigns you a role and has the matchmaker do all sorts of things to make an even game based on SR and make an even game role-wise. So right off the bat, I want to say this is definitely going to increase queue times, but I think the majority of players understand that and would be willing to wait a little bit longer for more balanced games. So my system is simple. We lock in 3 players on the team, that's half the team, to dedicated roles for heroes that you would want in every composition, going all the way from, bronze tier to professional level play. You're almost always going to see a tank, a healer, and a DPS. And that's my opinion, at least for what the roster is now, what's going on in the pro scene. And originally my idea was actually to lock in 4 roles and have both supports, but then I got to thinking, well, there's sometimes support Mei picks and support Sombra picks, so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have 3 flex. I want to have the team have the ability to build the comp that they want, and then you kind of just go from there. I mean, ultimately, if you have 3 flex players and say one of the flex players hops off of what you think is one of those necessary roles, well, then you could politely ask another flex player to take that role, or do that yourself if you're sitting in a flex role. But overall, it's a bad experience when too many of the same role main are on the same team, because one of them has to compromise away from their preferred role to fill a role that they don't really want to play. This would eradicate that issue. This would eradicate the issue of teams automatically ruining the comp and, just proceeding the rest of the game throwing, even though they're all doing it together. The whole team throws the game by, picking a stupid comp, and I think this could really help with that. Overall, I think more structure to the competitive side of Overwatch is actually what we need, and while I sympathize with Blizzard and anyone in the community that doesn't want to see any form of restrictions on hero picking, I want to say that it's kind of necessary. So that's my idea. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below, because a system like this would take serious development. It would take testing. It would take, more ideas and implementations. And I really got excited and kind of passionate about this idea. And I want to start that dialogue. This is one of the longer videos I've made. So thank you so much for checking out this video. Please do not leave without leaving a like. Check out our Twitter, because we do post our updates and kind of thoughts on there as well. And subscribe for future content. I'm going to be pushing out videos every other day minimum, trying to shoot for that daily goal as best I can. So thank you again for checking out this video, and I will see you for the next one.
Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel the fire inside of me? Do you see the sparks that I'm setting free? Does the beat take you over? You just